welcome to this week's reading lesson. So for this week's reading lesson, we're going to be visiting something that we talked about quite a long time ago and you guys got really good at, and that is poetry. So why exactly do I have a tree here? Because it's a poet tree. You get it? Yeah. So I got really excited. So in order to talk about poetry, we kind of need to go back over some really important things about poetry. Now, the tricky thing about poetry is that it's a lot smaller than reading a book. It's only usually about a page, maybe even half a page. So a lot of people think it's really easy, but that's not the case. Poetry takes the most mind work because you have to try and read it a certain way. So I'm gonna go ahead and read this just as is without looking at the elements of poetry, and you guys tell me what you think, okay? So, open, shut, that's the way we cut. Tuck your elbows nice and tight, make sure you hold me right. Fingers on the bottom, thumb on top, do not let the paper drop. Hold me straight, not down, turn your paper round and round. Open, shut, that's the way we cut. Is that fun to read at all? Probably not. So here's the thing with poetry, is it has some really important things you need to look at when reading it through, because if you read it the way I did, I sounded like a robot and I sounded bored, and that's not what poetry is for. Poetry can be really fun, or even like this, it's about a mystery item. So let's take a look at the really important elements of poetry, and then let's try rereading it and see if it sounds a little bit better. First things first, let's start with this. Open, shut, that's the way we cut. Now, this right here, when lines are together, is called a stanza. Okay? A stanza is a group of lines in a poem, so it's kind of like a little paragraph. Now, as you can see, there's quite a bit of stanzas in this poem. You can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you might read a stanza very differently than you'll read another one. Remember, in poetry, poems like to break the rules, so you could just have one word as its own stanza, but that means you're gonna have to read it a certain way. So in order to make a stanza, we need to have this. Do you guys see this? There's quite a bit of space. It's like the author of this poem skipped a line between these two stanzas. Now what that's called is a line break. A line break is where each line of the text ends in the poem. So a lot of times a poet will put in a line break as a pause. So you'll read the stanza, pause, read the stanza, pause, read the stanza, pause. It's not all squished together. It's not like a book. You really have to take those pauses because they have meaning. So let's go ahead and go through this poem again. Open, shut, that's the way we cut. Tuck your elbows nice and tight, make sure you hold me right. Wonder what this poem's about. Oh, here's another line break. Fingers on the bottom, thumb on top, do not let the paper drop. Now, as I'm reading this, I'm catching something. I don't know if you guys are catching the same thing I am, but there's a lot of rhyming words in this, isn't there? Shut, cut, tight, right, top, drop. Now, rhyming is a really big element of poetry. Now, a rhyme is a pattern of syllables and rhyming words. The end of each one of these words, cut, shut, tight, right, this last little bit here is what's making it rhyme, okay? Top, drop, it has that op at the very end, just changing the first sound. So far we've gone over the stanzas, the line breaks, and the rhyming to kind of make the poetry have a certain rhythm to it. Now, let's keep going. Hold me straight, not down, turn your paper round and round. There's that rhyming band. There's the line break. Open, shut, that's the way we cut. I feel like I've read that before. It's because I have. This line is also up here. You guys see? Open, shut, that's the way we cut. It's repeating itself. Repetition is a big thing in poetry. Repetition just means a line or word is repeated over and over. So this could be an entire stanza, or it could just be a word like cut. There are two forms of repetition in this stanza. It's the whole thing and cut. It's repeating the same thing over and over and over. Knowing this, we have rhyme, repetition, line break, so I'm gonna go ahead and reread, and then we're gonna try and decide what exactly is this poem about. So this poem is called Cut. Open, shut, that's the way we cut. Tuck your elbows nice and tight, make sure you hold me right. Fingers Fingers on the bottom, thumb on top. Do not let the paper drop. Hold me straight, not down. Turn your paper round and round. Open, shut, that's the way we cut, cut, cut. So reading it that second time, I enjoyed it a lot more. Now that was just my second read through. Now let's take a closer look at the poem, because it's not just having stanzas and line breaks and rhymes and repetition. It's doing something in our heads, right? What do you guys think this poem is about? Well, it's about something that's cutting, and it's giving us clues. Really, really specific clues too. Take a look at this stanza. Tuck your elbows nice and tight. Make sure you hold me right, so your elbows are in. Hold me straight, not down. Turn your paper round and round. So what do we use to cut a piece of paper? A pair of scissors. But it never said a pair of scissors. It painted a picture in our minds. A really big thing that poems love to do is have imagery. Now, imagery is when the author helps the reader form a picture in their mind. That means using descriptive words and being really specific with what you're saying. Like, let's take this stanza for an example. Hold me straight, not down, turn your paper round and round. So if I had a pair of scissors, it says hold me straight, not down, because you can't cut that way. Nobody cuts that way. Straight, not down, turn your paper round and round. So as you're cutting, you're turning your piece of paper. So it didn't just say we're cutting a piece of paper, it's explaining how we use scissors. It's putting images in our mind, so it made it pretty easy to guess that it was scissors. Another thing that it's doing is it's telling us something, so let's see. Let's take a look at this very first line. Open, shut, that's the way we cut, cut, cut. What is it talking about? Open, shut, open, shut, open, shut. It's talking about us using the scissors like this, but it doesn't say that's the way scissors cut, cut, cut. It says that's the way we cut, cut, cut. So who is talking in this poem? The scissors are. But I don't know about you guys, I've never heard scissors talk before. What it's doing is it is giving human-like qualities to an object that isn't human. That's called personification. Personification is giving human traits to something that's not human. Poems love to do this because it helps form that image that we were talking about earlier, form that image in the reader's mind. Instead of just saying the scissors cut, 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 it's saying we. It's giving the poem a little bit of character, a little bit of spice. Now, the last thing that I want to point out is this right here. Cut, 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 and cut, cut, cut. Now that word is repeated a lot. That's actually the name of the poem, cut, cut, cut. That's a sound word. Here, listen. Can you guys hear that? It's the sound of cutting. So it's using a sound word to help us have that image in our head, because we know what scissors sound like. So cut, cut, cut is a sound word. Or in poetry and in other forms of reading, it's called now this is a big word, onomatopoeia. Now, an onomatopoeia is just another really big name for sound word. You can use this in poems all the time. Now, the purpose of a sound word is to really pop out in the reader's mind. Cut, 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 right? So I'm gonna read this poem one last time with all of our things put together. Let's see how it sounds. This is cut. Open, shut, that's the way we cut, cut, cut. Tuck your elbows nice and tight. Make sure you hold me right. Fingers on the bottom, thumb on top. Do not let the paper drop. Hold me straight, not down. Turn your paper round and round. Open, shut, that's the way we cut, cut, cut. It took me 3 times to read this poem over and over and really look and think about what each part is saying in order to get the most out of this poem. Here's your assignment on Seesaw this week. You have a poem to choose from. It's going to be your job to choose how to read that poem. Use these elements to help you out, especially if you see any imagery, personification, or onomatopoeias. All right, guys, until the next video, I'll see you next time.